Welcome to the Dowden Podcast. I'm your host, the official CRG, and today we are going to discuss some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks and why I believe certain platforms cover topics for views instead of real news. Now, before we discuss anything, I want to give my condolences to all the families and people who have lost their lives in these topics that we are about to talk about, and I wish nothing but the best for all of the families. But with that being said, this past week there were some major incidents, including the Ocean Gate submarine and a migrant ship. Now, I'm sure most of you know about this submarine, but in case you don't, this past week, a tourist submarine that takes people to the Titanic and back imploded and killing 5 people on board. I will not say the names out of respect for the family's privacy, but on June 18th, the crew of Polar Prince lost contact with the submarine about an hour and 45 minutes into their dive. News of the missing sub was announced June 19th, having a search and rescue operation underway. Coast Guard conducted aerial searches and sonar buoys, but had no success. By then, the submarine only had so much oxygen left, and on June 22nd, Pelagic Research Services confirmed that its remote-operated vehicle found debris from the sub. In a press conference the same day, the U.S. Coast Guard confirmed that an ROV discovered debris 1,600 feet from the bow of the tailbone of the Titanic wreckage on the seafloor. The U.S. Coast Guard said that the debris field is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel, meaning it would have been a quick implosion with no possible survivors. Now, the reason I brought this up is because this was covered on every single news platform, and I'm not trying to knock it. People lost their lives. This was a terrible situation, but this was covered on every news platform, every social media app. But most of those headlines weren't talking about the submarine itself. A lot were focused on a very specific person that was aboard the ship, and they wanted to see what would happen. And it's very sad. Now, I'm not saying nobody cared about the actual incident, because people did. People were sad. People wanted to do something. But I believe that if that high status person wasn't on that sub, you wouldn't have seen all that coverage in major outlets talking about it, because they didn't do it with our next topic. But because there was this certain person, people wanted to cover it because they knew it would bring the eyes and the views. They knew it would bring the attention. But, I say this because 4 days before the submarine went missing, a migrant ship carrying 750 people sank off the Greek coast and nobody covered it. And you can go ahead and make an excuse that it's international waters, but so was the last topic, so was the explosion. So there's no reason both topics couldn't be covered. But rescuers were able to save 104 passengers, but fear there are hundreds of others that may be trapped below deck. 78 bodies have been recovered, leaving even more missing and unknown. But Coast Guards believe that the boat may have sunk after running out of fuel or engine trouble. Plus, the movement from all the passengers inside caused it to tilt and ultimately sink. Now, where the boat sank is close to one of the deepest parts of the Mediterranean Sea, having depths up to 17,000 feet. 29 survivors remain hospitalized, mostly with symptoms of hypothermia, while 8 have been questioned by the Coast Guard investigators. So my question is all of these people paid money just like the submarine, but they were paying for a better life? Families, kids were on that ship, hoping for a better life. And unfortunately, something so tragic happens and nobody's talking about it. It's sad because nobody deserves to lose their life. But the fact that all of these platforms decided to cover one topic about somebody other than the situation itself versus hundreds of families and different cultures that just disappear, it's disgusting, because those families deserve closure and support. I just wish that we would have seen a couple of news channels talk about this migrant boat that went down. So, if you're going to watch the news, just check different platforms, because nowadays it's whatever is bringing the views and conversation and not what's really going down behind the cameras. So just don't fall into a loop of false information or fake headlines, because not even talking about these situations, but there's a lot of platforms that will just make up some small headline, or there's a real world problem and they'll enhance it to make it a topic of discussion. So just make sure you know what's really going on. Make sure you know the facts before you just take somebody's word. Make sure you actually do your research on your own, because there's real problems and things we need to fix, but not every platform wants to tell you or show you that. So with all that being said, today's quote is by the amazing reggae artist Bob Marley. He once said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice." And, that can be taken in so many different ways: mental health, the passing of somebody, overcoming roadblocks to reach your higher goals. Just being strong is how we become the best version of ourselves. If you think you aren't strong now, just wait until you get put into a situation that you have no choice, and then you will prove yourself wrong. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And with that being said, this is the Dowden Podcast.